I have a feeling we're not going to agree with this first line.
No, so this is Rama talking to his mother.
Okay.
And she wants to go with him.
Okay, got it. Your place is beside your husband. You will have to comfort and nurse him. You must see that he is not sunk in the sorrow by my exile. You cannot leave him now. Also, later, my father may want to engage himself in the performance of religious rites for his own welfare, and you will be needed at his side. After living in the forest, I will come back. After all, 14 years could pass like as many days. If you remember my earlier stay in the forest with Vishwamitra, brought me countless blessings. This could be, say it again, Amanda.
Vishwamitra. This is one of the top.
Vishwamitra brought me countless blessings. This could be similar opportunity again for me, so do not grieve. Kasula now realized that Rama could not be stopped. She thought, let me at least beg my husband's help to hold him back from his resolve. However, when she reached the king's chamber and saw his condition, she realized the hopelessness of her mission. As he lay there, stunned and silent, she understood that he must be in some dreadful dilemma. Unable to bear the spectacle of an inert, lifeless husband, she uttered a loud wail. Her cries were so loud that the guests in the assembly hall were startled and requested sage Vashita to go immediately and find out the cause. All kinds of music, chanting of hymns, prayers, laughter, and talk had filled the air, but the sudden intrusion of wailing destroyed the atmosphere of joy. Vashita hurried on. He found the king looking almost dead. Kaikai sitting apart and watching the scene unperturbed, and Kasula in a state of comfort, desperation, and wretchedness. He quickly tired to estimate the situation. It would be no use questioning Kasula. He turned to the calm and firm-looking Kaiwi. Madam, what has happened? Nothing to warrant as all this hubbubaloo, Kei said. A situation like this ought to be ignored. A purely domestic matter. Do not be perturbed, sir. Go back to the assembly and tell them to be calm. A few changes in the arrangements, that's all. They will be told about it soon. I want to know everything, said Vashita.
Vashista.
Vashista.
Like the pose Vashistasana is dedicated to him.
Ah.
You know, side plank Vashistasana. Vashista.
Empathetically, she hastened to say, of course, you are our spiritual mentor and guide, and you have every right to demand an explanation. While she spoke, Vashita saw Kasula writhing and squirming, and Dashratha stirring. Dashratha was evidently
Dasaratha. These are really hard.
I know.
Dasaratha.
Vashista was eventually aware.
Domenica, just so we can remember, Dasaratha is the king. Kasarala, I can't remember without seeing it. Yeah, Kausalya is Rama's mother, who is getting banned. Rama's the one getting banned, the brother getting banned to the forest. And then Kaikeyi is the other wife, the mother of, I can't think of what his name is, but it starts with.
I think it's like Kalki.
Kaiki?
Kalki? I remember my teachers calling it Kalki.
Okay, Kalki is the mother of the other brother that's going to be anointed king.
And who's Vashita?
Maybe I forget exactly his role.
Vashista is the guru that sits beside the king. So every king in Vedic society would have an advisor who was like the spiritual guide. Like these people had no self-interest. They were like adept yogi brahmanas, and the government paid for everything for them. So like they didn't have to worry about money or being sort of swayed. Like, you know, the issue with our government is like people can buy their way into legislation and everything. Or like if someone's interested in power, like the highest in the land is going to be, in our sort of structure, the president, but like in Vedic structure, the highest in the land, like the highest word would be that came from the guru. So like these kings were all guided by spiritual principles. So you can understand a little bit more about Vashista.
Got it.
Yeah, and the son's name here is Bharatha. The other son.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's a lot of people. Dashwarta was, I know I'm saying it wrong, was evidently aware of what was going on in the room and unable to take part in conversation. Did I read this already? Okay, I'll just
No,
start.
you're fine. Yeah.
Okay. Lest either of them should begin to say things at cross purposes with her. Kei said, "Your wisdom sustains us, sir. You will realize that nothing untoward has happened." Before I had even spoken fully, Rama understood and agreed. It's the others who are making all this fuss. Rama has surrendered his right to the throne in favor of Bharata and will stay away in the forest for 14 years. It's a thing that concerns primarily himself, and he has accepted it without a word, with much grace. But these others think. She swept her arm up to indicate several hostile persons. Vashista understood, but still asked, "What is the cause of this change?" Kaiki, whose good manners had reached their limit, now said, "If my husband will speak, he can. Otherwise, please wait. Just tell those assembled that there is a change in the program. That we will see later," said Vashista. "First, we must revive the king." He stooped over the king lying on the couch, gently lifted his head, and helped him sit up. We need you, your majesty. You are the lord and the captain. What is to happen if you are withdrawn like this?" The king went on mumbling, "Kaiki, Kaiki." Vashista said, "The queen, Kaiki, is most considerate. She will do nothing that goes against your wishes. I am sure she will be obliging and helpful. There has been no opportunity to discuss these questions with Her Majesty, our immediate concern being your welfare." Kaiki listened passively to the full statement by Vashista. Darshwarta, clutching at the straw of hope, asked, "Does she relent? If she does, Rama will be king. And as to my promise, let her ask for any fulfillment she may think of." Relieved to find the king improving, Vashista turned to Kaiki and appealed to her all the humility he could muster in his tone. "Everything is in your hands. Please consider yourself as the benefactress of humanity. The whole world will be grateful to you for your help. Please reconsider." Kaiki became emotional. "If one cannot depend on the promise of a famous king," she hissed, "life is not worth living. After all, I have done nothing more than ask for the fulfillment of this own voluntary promise. And you talk as if I've committed a crime. You do not realize the evil consequences of your act, nor are you willing to listen to and understand when we try to explain. Your obstinacy is inhumane, said Vashista. When you appeared unaffected, he went on. The king's tongue never uttered the words of exile. You have passed this on as his command, knowing that Rama would never question the truth of it. You have used your position as his favorite queen. No matter how he argued and persuaded, Kekel held her ground in clinical calm. Oh, Guruji, you talk like these ignorant, self-centered people who find fault with me without understanding. Finally, the king burst out, "Oh, devilish one, you ordered him into exile. Is he gone? In seeking you as a mate, I'd sought my death. Those cherry lips I thought sustain me, but they have only been a source of the deadliest poison to finish me off. This sage be my witness. You are no longer my wife, and your son shall not be entitled to cremate me when I die." Kausalya, when she saw her husband's plight, was most moved and tried to comfort him in her own way, concealing her own misery at the prospect of Rama's exile. She told her husband clearly, "If you do not maintain the integrity and the truth of your own words, and now try to hold Rama back, the world will not accept it. Try to lessen your attachment to Rama and hold your calm yourself." The king was not appeased by her advice. The holy water from Ganga brought for absolution during the coronation will now serve me for my last drink. The holy fire raised will serve to light my funeral cry. Rama, Rama, don't go. I take back my word to Kekel. How can I bear to see you go? I will not survive your departure. If I lived after your departure, what would be the difference between me and the monster in my wife's shape, Kekel? Thus, and in many other ways, Darshwata lamented. Vashita said, "Do not grieve. I will see that your son is persuaded to stay back." Dashwata had become so weakened in will that he clung to his hope when he saw the sage depart. Kausalya comforted the king by saying, "It is quite likely Vashita will come back with Rama." She tenderly lifted him, nursed him, and stroked his head and shoulder. He kept repeating, "Will Rama come? When? How terrible will Kaikel, whom I love so much, should contribute my death, so that she may place Bharata on the throne." Silence for a while, but once again, all his lamentations and fears could return redoubled. "Kausala, my dear wife, listen. Rama will not change his aim. Definitely go away, and my life will end. You know why? It's an old story. Once, while I was hunting in the forest, I heard the gurgling of water, the noise an elephant makes when drinking water. I shot an arrow in that direction and at once heard a human cry in agony. I went and found that I had shot a young boy. He had been filling his pitcher and rushing into the into it had created that noise. The boy was dying and told me his old parents, eyeless, were not far away. He had tended them, carrying them back and forth. He died on hearing this tragedy. They died on hearing this tragedy after cursing the man who had killed their son to suffer a similar fate. And so that is going to be my fate. When Rama's exile became known, the kings and commoners assembled at the hall broke down and wept. So did the religious heads and ascetics. Men and women wept aloud. The parrots in their cages wept, the cats in the people's homes, the infants in the cradles, the cows and the calves. Flowers that had just blossomed wilted away. The water birds and the elephants, the chargers that drew the chariots, all broke down and lamented like Darshwata himself, unable to bear the pang of separation from Rama. What a moment ago had the world of festivities had become one on mourning crowns thronged hither and thither. stood in knots at the street corners, watched the portals of the palace, speculating and commenting. Kaikel, the red-lipped prostitute, they said. We never suspected that our king was lost in infatuation. He thought that the red-lipped woman was our queen, but she has shown her true nature, using her flesh to bait a senile man who has sought his own ruin and thereby the ruin of our country. Let Kaikil try and rule this country with her son. There will be none left to rule. We will all kill ourselves and move out with Rama. Ah, unfortunate earth has not destined to have Rama as our overlord. What is Lakshmana doing? How will he stand this separation? What justification can there be for breaking a promise made to Rama? Strange act of justice, the world has suddenly gone mad. Lakshmana, on hearing of the developments, was roused.
Lakshmana.
Lakshmana.
Yeah.
On hearing the developments, was roused like the fire starting to consume the earth on the last day. Food kept for the lion is sought to be fed to the street puppy. So plans the doe-eyed Kaikel, commented Lakshmana. He picked up his sword and bow, put on the battle dress, and aggressively roamed the streets, swearing, Rama shall be crowned, and whoever comes in the way will be annihilated. Let the whole world come. I will destroy everyone who possesses and pile up their carcasses sky high. I'll seize the crown and will not rest till I place it on Rama's head. This I'll achieve this very day, seeing his fiery eyes and hearing his serotonin challenges, people withdrew from his proximity. If all gods in heaven, all demons, all good people of the earth and bad, if the whole world opposes me, I will not relent or yield to desire mere female. I'll read to the end of this page and then we'll stop. His challenges and the rattling of his arms and the twanging of his bowstring reached the ears of Rama, who was just on his way to leave his stepmother, Sumitra, Lakshmana's mother, and immediately turned back and confronted Lakshmana. What makes you wear all this battle dress? And against whom are you uttering your challenges? And why are you so wild and angry? Lakshmana said, If this is not the occasion for anger, when else is it? After having comprised you a rightful place to deny it, I can't tolerate it. This fictitious dreams of what black-hearted women shall not be fulfilled. I'll not let my senses judge this injustice passively. I'll resist it till I perish. If I make a mistake, said Rama, I will only have myself to blame for accepting my father's offer of the throne so steadily without thinking of the consequences. Your tongue learned in the recital of the Vedas and all the truths of the godly life should not be allowed to utter whatever it likes so irresponsibly. Your charges will not stand the scrutiny of justice and serene temperaments. You must not utter such bitter remarks about people who, after all, are none other than your father and mother. Rama makes no distinction between stepmother and mother and stepfather.
So this kind of like shows us a bit about the culture, right? The king has multiple wives and the wives all have sons, right? So we have Rama is the son of one wife, Lakshmana is the son of another wife, Bharata is the son of another wife. So they're like their family would be considered, they're all brothers, right? Because they all have the same father, but they also consider all of the women their mothers. Like all the women would raise the kids together. So you also see the level of like principle that these people have. Like this man made a promise to his wife Kalki like years and years and years ago that like if it ever comes to it, you know, marry me and I promise if it ever comes to it that I will give you any boon that you asked me for. So now it's years later, and it's like the very thing that he's like literally dying over and doesn't want to do. But because he gave his word, he has to do it, you know, like there's no going back on doing it. And Ram has this level of like this same level of principle where my father, like in this culture, like the parent is supposed to be revered and respected. So like my father's asking something of me, I'm not going to protest. I'm not going to make a big scene. I'm going to, you know, stay calm and equanimous, and I will go into the forest. I will like go be cast away from my family and my people for, you know, all these years. And he's like not even putting up a fight. You know, his brother Lakshman, and these are all of the cast of the kings are also kind of like the warriors. So like they it's like their constitutional type is like strong, aggressive, and like they're supposed to go out and fight to protect the people. So like you could see the sort of energy coming out in Lakshman where he's like, I'm gonna go kill everyone, I'm gonna set their heads on fire. He's like bringing out that sort of violence. And you know, his brother is still like not allowing him to do that. He's saying, no, father told us this. Like, have you forgotten that, you know, you're speaking so ill of this woman and she's also your mother? Just so we get like more of a picture of sort of the culture that they're living within. And like the story, as much as it's like subtle undertones or that of like the explanation of like the intelligence married to the consciousness, married to divinity, like on the surface it's sort of teaching us about like the moral lessons of a culture, how they can sort of inform and influence our lives and be sort of an example to our life of like, if we look at Dasaratha, you know, like his word means something, and that's important. And maybe that could be an example to us of like, if we're going to make a promise, make sure that it's something you can keep, right? That's not going to like destroy your life. You know, Rama, his equanimousness is something that we can sort of look up to and see, like, even when he was about to be given a kingdom and it was taken away, his level of presence and non-attachment made it where he was still internally okay, where he could just like go with the flow of life, right? It's like kind of something we can look up to and sort of strive to be like you see these characters later on that come into the book, like Hanumanji, he sees Ram and he looks up to him so much and he wants to serve Ram, right? And Ram is representative, Elizabeth, of like, he's meant to be representative of an incarnation of Vishnu, which is like the energy of the universe that sustains everything. So
Ram and Rama are the same thing.
yeah.
Okay.
So we're like using this fairy tale to explain these like larger energies of the world. So you'll hear Hanumanji, who's like his friend in the story, but also represents the yogi in real life and the path, like the very courageous path the yogi takes to like live in this world with these principles, as hard as it is. You have to be very brave to do it, right? It's not like the easy path, but it's the virtuous path. So, you know, everything he goes on about later on in the story about how he loves Ram and he serves Ram, it's meant for us to sort of use an example as well of like we should be grateful for the energy that sustains us. We should be in service back to that energy, if that makes sense to everyone. I don't know. I'll stop talking now.
I think